Hey everyone, tonight we're going to step into one of the most thrilling and, dare I say, spookiest tales of ancient Egypt. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb and the legendary curse that supposedly followed. Imagine, if you will, the relentless sun beating down on the Valley of the Kings, the air thick with dust and anticipation. You're standing beside Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter, their eyes fixed on a newly uncovered step in the bedrock, a step leading down into darkness, into history, into a secret untouched for over 3 millennia. The air crackles with unspoken excitement, but also a hint of something else, something ancient and perhaps, just perhaps, resentful. Unlike the calm, controlled archaeological digs we usually talk about, this discovery ignited a global sensation. A frenzy of speculation that blended historical marvel with supernatural dread. You might think, oh, it's just a silly old curse, but trust me, when you hear about the peculiar string of events that followed, you might just find yourself double-checking that your windows are locked tonight. And if you tried to sneak into an ancient tomb like this, without permission, you probably wouldn't survive the legal ramifications, let alone any ancient booby traps. Which, let's be honest, would probably be more dust than doom anyway. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight. It's 8:52 p.m. here in Tuy Quang, Vietnam, a perfectly peaceful time for ancient mysteries. Turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get into the story tonight. Before those fateful steps were uncovered, the search for Tutankhamun's tomb was a long, arduous process, testament to the valley's silent watch. For years, Howard Carter, funded by Lord Carnarvon, meticulously combed the Valley of the Kings, that sun-baked necropolis where pharaohs had sought eternal rest for centuries. It's a landscape of stark, silent cliffs, riddled with known tombs that had long been plundered. Imagine the frustration, the endless days of digging in the scorching heat, sifting through rubble that had been disturbed countless times by earlier explorers and tomb robbers. The valley often seems to hold its breath, a place that guards its secrets fiercely. There's a particular kind of silence there, broken only by the whispers of the wind and the distant cries of falcons, making every tiny sound seem amplified. This persistence, year after year, was a canonical historical event in itself, a testament to Carter's unwavering belief that a royal tomb, specifically Tutankhamun's, remained hidden. He had a hunch, a feeling, almost a psychic connection to the boy king's lost resting place. One quirky fact about the Valley of the Kings is that many of the workers who carved these elaborate tombs lived in a specially built village Deir el-Medina, and some even went on strike for better working conditions. Imagine ancient Egyptian labor disputes. Historians still debate whether Tutankhamun's tomb was deliberately hidden so well, or if its small size and the later construction of other tombs simply obscured it from more casual looting for so long. It's a bit like trying to find a specific needle in a very large, very dusty haystack, where the haystack is also full of other needles that everyone else has already found. After what must have felt like an eternity of fruitless digging, the moment of revelation finally arrived. It was November 4th, 1922, when a young water boy stumbled upon something unusual, a stone step, half buried in the rubble. This was the first hint of a stairway to eternity. Imagine the rush of adrenaline, the sudden, almost unbelievable realization that after so many years, they had hit something. More steps were painstakingly uncovered, leading down, into the very bedrock of the valley. This was not just any stairway. It was the beginning of an intact tomb, a rarity beyond imagination in a valley long believed to be thoroughly plundered. Carter himself famously sent a telegram to Carnarvon. At last have made wonderful discovery in valley. Magnificent tomb with seals intact. Recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations. It's a bit like finally finding the last piece of a giant, ancient jigsaw puzzle and realizing it opens up a secret passage to a treasure chest. This discovery of an undisturbed tomb was a canonical historical event, fundamentally changing our understanding of Egyptian burial practices and art. One quirky detail is that a cobra, a symbol of Egyptian royalty and protection, was said to have entered Carter's house on the very day the tomb was opened, devouring his canary. Naturally, this fueled early whispers of a curse. Historians still debate the exact state of the tomb seals and whether it was truly intact or had seen at least one ancient intrusion before Carter's team. The excitement must have been absolutely unbearable, a mixture of pure triumph and almost childlike wonder. With the stairway fully uncovered and the initial sealed doorway breached, you find yourself on the threshold of the tomb proper, taking your first glimpse of gold. Imagine the narrow, sloping corridor, filled with the scent of ancient dust and the cool, still air of millennia. As your lamp beam cuts through the profound darkness, it dances across shapes that immediately confirm the extraordinary nature of this discovery. What greets you is not an empty chamber, but a room piled high with objects, many gleaming with the unmistakable glint of gold. This was the antechamber, the first main room crammed with furniture. Statues, dismantled chariots, and countless other items, all shimmering in the dusty light. It's almost too much to process, a sensory overload of wealth and artistry preserved in perfect stillness. Carter's famous response when Carnarvon asked if he saw anything: "Yes, wonderful things." This moment, stepping into an untouched royal tomb, was a canonical historical event that captivated the entire world. It was unprecedented, a true archaeological jackpot. One quirky fact from this initial entry is that among the countless treasures, mundane items like linen underwear, bread, and even a child's toy chest were found, painting a surprisingly human picture of the boy king. Historians still debate the specific organization of items within the antechamber. Was it a chaotic jumble? Or was there an underlying, perhaps ritualistic logic to the placement of every single object, even the seemingly mundane ones, ensuring their availability to the king in the afterlife? It's like walking into the world's most opulent, yet strangely cluttered garage sale from 3,000 years ago, and everything is solid gold. Beyond the astonishing antechamber, the true heart of the tomb lay behind another meticulously sealed doorway. This was the sealed doorway, a final, tantalizing barrier to the burial chamber itself and its ultimate promises. Imagine standing before it, the air thick with anticipation. The hieroglyphic seals of the necropolis still perfectly intact, unbroken for over 3,000 years. This wasn't just a wall, it was a symbolic threshold between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. It's designed to deter intruders, both mortal and spiritual. The careful, almost ritualistic way it was plastered and stamped spoke volumes about the ancient Egyptians' profound respect for the deceased's eternal rest. You might feel a chill, a whisper of the ancient world's final warning as Howard Carter and his team, with bated breath, began the delicate process of breaking these seals. It's like finding a treasure map that leads you to an X, but the X is a giant, perfectly preserved vault door that hasn't been opened since the Roman Empire was just a twinkle in someone's eye. This act of breaching the inner sanctum was a canonical historical event. It's a final step into a tomb untouched by time or looters. One quirky detail is that Lord Carnarvon, often portrayed as impatient, actually insisted on a very careful, slow approach to opening this final door, likely due to the enormity of what they suspected lay beyond. Historians still debate the precise meaning of some of the rarer seals found on this door, and whether they indicated specific protective spells or simply identified the royal necropolis. The tension in that moment, knowing what lay just on the other side, must have been almost unbearable. A blend of scientific excitement and perhaps a tiny shiver of superstitious dread as that final sealed doorway crumbled, revealing a deeper chamber, finally come face to face with Tutankhamun's golden coffin. Imagine the gasp, not just from those present but echoing through time, as the beam of light illuminated a massive gilded shrine that filled almost the entire room. This wasn't just a coffin, it was a nested series of 4 gilded shrines, intricately carved and covered in shimmering gold leaf, each fitting snugly inside the last-like Russian dolls of immense grandeur. Inside those lay a magnificent quartzite sarcophagus. Within that, 3 more coffins, the innermost one made of solid gold, weighing over 240 pounds. The sight of such unimaginable wealth and artistry, preserved perfectly for millennia, is truly inspiring. It's a moment that transcends archaeology, becoming almost mythical. This discovery of the incredibly elaborate series of shrines and coffins, culminating in the solid gold death mask, It's a canonical historical event that fundamentally reshaped the world's perception of ancient Egyptian wealth and funerary practices. It was unlike anything ever found before, intact and dazzling. One quirky fact: the original plan for the tomb was seemingly much smaller, suggesting a hasty adaptation of an existing tomb, possibly due to the young king's unexpected death. So, this incredible golden display was packed into a space that might not have been originally intended for such grandeur. Historians still debate the specific methods used to lower such massive heavy shrines and sarcophagi into the relatively confined space of the burial chamber, given the limitations of ancient technology. It's a bit like trying to assemble a grand piano in a small closet, but with millions of dollars in gold involved, and with the nested shrines and sarcophagi slowly opened. The ultimate moment of truth arrived, unveiling the young king. Imagine the hush that fell over the small team as the lid of the innermost solid gold coffin was carefully lifted, revealing the mummy of Tutankhamun himself, adorned with the iconic gold death mask. Howard Carter himself, the one who spent the most time in the tomb, lived for another 16 years after the discovery, dying of lymphoma at the ripe old age of 64. Many other members of his team also lived long, healthy lives seemingly untouched by any ancient wrath. If there was a curse, it seemed to be remarkably selective, like a very polite bouncer at an exclusive afterlife club. Historians still debate whether psychological stress and suggestion played a significant role in the perception of the curse. With the heightened media attention and the pervasive belief in ancient curses, potentially predisposing individuals to interpret unfortunate events as supernatural retribution. Was it a deadly fungus, a case of bad luck, or simply the power of suggestion causing people to look for patterns in misfortune? The rational explanations certainly lack the dramatic flair of a vengeful pharaoh, but they do provide a comforting, logical framework for understanding a series of tragic, yet perhaps unrelated events. This wasn't just a wrapped body, it was a figure laden with astonishing treasures. From intricate pectorals on his chest to rings on his fingers and toes, all designed to protect and empower him in the afterlife. The mask, in particular, with its serene, idealized features and brilliant lapis lazuli inlays, is a canonical historical event in itself, an image that has become synonymous with ancient Egypt worldwide. It's an almost intimate encounter with a ruler who died over 3,300 years ago. A boy king whose brief life, once largely forgotten, was suddenly brought vividly back into the global consciousness. The process of examining the mummy itself was painstaking, requiring delicate archaeological and early anthropological techniques. One quirky detail that emerged from his examination: Tutankhamun was quite short, around 5'6", and suffered from several ailments, including a club foot, likely due to genetic issues from generations of royal inbreeding. This was a king who probably limped around his palace, a far cry from the majestic image often portrayed. Historians still debate the exact cause of his death, with theories ranging from a chariot accident to malaria, or even assassination, trying to piece together the final moments of his young life from skeletal remains in ancient texts. It's like being a detective on a case from over 3 millennia ago with only a few very dusty clues. As the initial awe of unveiling the young king subsided, a new, more mysterious narrative began to emerge, fueled by a series of peculiar events that soon became known as the Curse Takes Hold. Lord Carnarvon, the financial backer of the expedition, was the first prominent figure associated with the tomb to fall ill. Just a few months after the tomb's opening, he was bitten by a mosquito, which quickly led to an infection that spiraled into pneumonia. He died in Cairo on April 5, 1923 at 5 a.m. Legend has it that at the exact moment of his death, all the lights in Cairo inexplicably went out, and his dog, Susie, back in England, let out a mournful howl and died too. This dramatic sequence of events became a canonical historical anecdote, seizing the public imagination and forever linking the tomb to supernatural retribution. It was perfect fodder for the sensationalist press of the time, who eagerly fanned the flames of the Pharaoh's curse. Might scoff and think, come on, a mosquito bite. That's hardly ancient magic, but the sheer coincidences continued. Another quirky detail: an X-ray of Tutankhamun's mummy revealed a healed fracture in his left thigh, leading some to speculate it was the same leg bitten by the mosquito that infected Carnarvon. Spooky, right? Over the next few years, other members of the excavation team, or individuals closely associated with it, experienced untimely deaths or misfortunes. Richard Bethel, Carnarvon's secretary, died mysteriously in bed. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who x-rayed the mummy, died of a sudden illness. Even George J. Gould, a visiting American financier, died of pneumonia shortly after visiting the tomb. Historians still debate whether these unfortunate events were genuine manifestations of a curse, or merely a tragic string of coincidences amplified by public hysteria and the human tendency to find patterns where none truly exist. Was it cosmic payback, or just bad luck with a healthy dose of drama? As the string of peculiar misfortunes continued, claiming the lives of several individuals connected to the tomb, the scientific community naturally pushed back, initiating the long-standing debate of skepticism versus supernatural. While the public devoured every sensational headline about the curse, scientists and medical professionals began to offer more grounded, albeit less dramatic, explanations for the deaths. One prominent theory, which is a canonical historical explanation often cited, involved tomb toxins. It was proposed that fungi, bacteria, or molds, dormant for millennia within the sealed environment of the tomb, could have become airborne upon its opening, leading to respiratory infections or allergic reactions in those with compromised immune systems. Lord Carnarvon, for example, had a history of delicate health, making him particularly vulnerable to such pathogens. You might think, oh, so it was just ancient mold. How boring. But think about it. Breathing in spores that have unseen fresh air in 3,000 years could definitely make you feel a bit under the weather, to say the least. It's a bit like opening a very, very old can of sardines. You probably shouldn't breathe too deeply. Another quirky, less spooky fact often brought up is the sheer number of people who didn't die. Another quirky, less spooky fact often brought up is the sheer number of people who didn't die. Howard Carter himself, the one who spent the most time in the tomb, lived for another 16 years after the discovery. Dying of lymphoma at the ripe old age of 64, many other members of his team also lived long, healthy lives seemingly untouched by any ancient wrath. If there was a curse, it seemed to be remarkably selective, like a very polite bouncer at an exclusive afterlife club. Historians still debate whether psychological stress and suggestion played a significant role in the perception of the curse. With the heightened media attention and the pervasive belief in ancient curses, potentially predisposing individuals to interpret unfortunate events as supernatural retribution. Was it a deadly fungus, a case of bad luck, or simply the power of suggestion causing people to look for patterns in misfortune? The rational explanations certainly lack the dramatic flair of a vengeful pharaoh, but they do provide a comforting, logical framework for understanding a series of tragic, yet perhaps unrelated events. Despite the logical counterarguments and the many individuals who lived long lives after their involvement with the tomb, the story of the curse of Tutankhamun continues to hold a powerful grip on the popular imagination. This enduring fascination speaks to Tutankhamun's lasting whisper, the way his legacy and the myth surrounding it has permeated our culture. He was a relatively minor pharaoh in life, ruling for only about a decade in the 14th century BCE. But his unexpected death and the subsequent intact discovery of his tomb elevated him to unparalleled global stardom. His golden death mask, a canonical historical artifact, is arguably the most recognizable image of ancient Egypt worldwide. Adorning everything from museum posters to tourist souvenirs, imagine the sheer volume of books, documentaries, and even fictional thrillers that have been inspired by his story, many of which still lean into the tantalizing possibility of a supernatural element. It's a testament to the power of a good story, especially one that blends historical grandeur with a touch of the unknown. Even today, you'll hear whispers of curse anytime something untoward happens at an archaeological site, a cultural echo of Tutankhamun's legacy. One quirky, almost meta-fact about this phenomenon is that Howard Carter himself reportedly became increasingly annoyed by the constant media obsession with the curse. Viewing it as a distraction from the monumental scientific achievement of the discovery, he probably thought, can we just talk about the artifacts, please? Spent years in the desert for this? Historians still debate the ethical implications of archaeological sensationalism and how the media says focus on the curse. might have overshadowed the genuine academic and historical importance of Tutankhamun's tomb, potentially influencing public perception of archaeology as a whole. But regardless of whether you believe in ancient curses or not, the tale of Tutankhamun's discovery remains a thrilling blend of history, and the enduring human fascination with what lies beyond the veil. As the echoes of our journey through Tutankhamun's golden tomb begin to gently fade, and the whispers of the fabled curse soften into the quiet hum of your fan, allow yourself to drift. The desert night beyond the tomb, vast and silent, stretches on, holding countless secrets still. The boy king, now a timeless icon, continues his eternal rest, perhaps undisturbed, perhaps still subtly weaving his mystique into the fabric of our world. Feel the last tendrils of the story release their gentle hold on your mind, replaced by a profound sense of calm. The gold, the curses, the ancient rituals, they blur now, becoming part of a larger, more peaceful tapestry of history. There's a reassurance in these ancient tales, a reminder that some enigmas are meant to remain, adding a touch of wonder to the mundane. Let the gentle cadence of this narrative lull you now, knowing that the past, in all its mystery and grandeur, continues its silent watch. You are safe, nestled in your own time, bathed in the soft quiet. Allow the subtle magic of ancient Egypt to guide you into a profound and dreamless sleep. Rest well. End of script. Good night.